I remember long before Doctor Strange was cast thinking that Benedict Cumberbatch would have made the best Sorcerer Supreme. I was a big fan of his work on Sherlock, and I really rated him as an actor. So when news came out that he would be playing Stephen Strange on the big screen, I was ecstatic. And for good reason. Doctor Strange is a 2016 film directed by Scott Derrickson and starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Rachel McAdams, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Benedict Wong, Tilda Swinton, and Mads Mikkelsen. It tells the story of Stephen Strange, a neurosurgeon who gets into a freak car accident one day, and in his quest to heal himself, stumbles upon an ancient group of sorcerers and learns that there was so much more to the world than he had originally thought. So, I admit that I didn't see this movie quite as soon as it came out. What can I say? I was busy. So, I waited about a week before seeing it, and I remember being happy hearing from my friends that it was good. This was around the time that I was convincing people to hop on board the Marvel hype train. So I was glad that for a lot of people, the movie lived up to the hype. When I eventually got to seeing it, I was pretty happy with it too. All in all, it's a very solid movie in the MCU, telling a decent origin story alongside some of the most stunning visuals ever to be put into superhero cinema. Benedict Cumberbatch is perfect in the role of Doctor Strange. I never had any doubt, and my faith in him was rewarded in his performance in the movie. He plays an arrogant, know-it-all kind of guy, but carries himself with a somewhat likable demeanor. I think the role really suits him, and if he'd like to, he could make it his own, just as Robert Downey Jr. did with Tony Stark. The way this movie also goes about handling Mordo was something I was very interested in. In the comics, he's one of Doctor Strange's most popular villains, but in this movie, he's written in a way that complements Strange. He's very stoic, and Chiwetel Ejiofor portrays this Mordo as one that's very passionate about his beliefs in the world and in sorcery, which makes for some very interesting conflict with Strange, who is initially very skeptical about everything that's going on. The rest of the cast is solid as well. Despite the controversy surrounding the role of the Ancient One, I think Tilda Swinton is terrific in the role. Benedict Wong is another actor that I can't wait to see in Infinity War, and Mads Mikkelsen as Caecilius is... Yeah, we'll get back to that later. The writing for the movie and the story is alright. Many people have called this movie formulaic, as it very much follows preset superhero origin structures, and I'm not saying that people are wrong. I accept that it is formulaic in certain ways. However, the way the story is executed still feels fresh, despite it being a story done almost a million times over. That the movie still kept me hooked was something to be commended. The world building done by the movie to establish a whole other side of the MCU based on mysticism and magic was astounding. I do wish we spent more time exploring what this world had to offer, but for what was on display in the movie, it left me wanting more. Okay, so I've mentioned stuff like the story and the cast, however, I'm yet to mention what truly steals the show here, and it is the visuals. Boy, does this movie look amazing. Everything from the glowing shapes the sorcerers make with their hands, to the distorted parts of the world that are altered by magic, every part of it looks exceptional. There is so much creativity underlined in how everything looks. It's truly a feast for the eyes. The visuals on display also lend to how creative a lot of the action sequences were. This movie has some of my favorite action set pieces ever. Things move around all over the place in ways unfathomable, but at the same time can be comprehended. It's in this regard that the movie stands out. While the plot may be formulaic, the action here is difficult to match in terms of pure spectacle. I won't spoil the specific ways magic is used in imaginative forms, but just take my word for it, yeah? Now, in terms of the bad, one thing a lot of people mention is the humor. I didn't mind it so much when I first saw the movie, but after hearing what people had to say and after having seen the movie again, I have to agree that it feels off. It's like it feels the need to be on the same wavelength that the other Marvel movies are on in terms of comedy, when, in my opinion, a Doctor Strange story is exactly the kind that could use a lesser amount of jokes. Some of the jokes really don't do anything for the plot or for the characters. So that's something that kind of stood out on the rewatch. And as with the villain, we have Caecilius. Now, I'm a big Mads Mikkelsen fan. I mean, look at the guy. What a beautiful man. Wow. When I heard he was gonna be in the Doctor Strange movie, I was excited. Sadly though, he suffers the typical MCU villain syndrome. I don't think it's Mads' fault. I can tell he's putting in effort. It's just that we don't really get to spend all that much time with him, and though they attempt to give him a backstory, it doesn't really work, and he kind of falls flat. Not as bad as previous MCU villains, but yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, the plot treads a lot of similar beats that previous superhero movies have done, some of which aren't even in the MCU. Again, I don't mind this so much, as it does other things pretty well too. But I hope we don't really get those types of formulaic plots again. It's fine here because Doctor Strange is so bizarre in nature. But I don't know if it would have turned out as well as it did had this movie been based on another character. In the end, Doctor Strange, like many other MCU flicks, is fun. It's extremely fun. It's fun to watch, it has a wonderfully captured character in Cumberbatch's Strange, it introduced the mystic side of the MCU with aplomb, all while delivering some of the best visuals that the MCU has to offer. I give Doctor Strange a 7.5 out of 10. So yeah. This movie reminded me of how excited I am to see Strange in Infinity War. Okay, let's be real. I'm excited for Infinity War in general. But yeah, there's that. Anyway, next week, it's back to space with our favorite ragtag group of a-holes.